The Houthis claiming attacks on two Saudi oil tankers as the Iran-backed group's blockade threatens shipping in the Red Sea, forcing other oil tankers to change course. Secretary of State Marco Rubio speaking about the attacks this morning. Listen to this.
Look, I hope that they'll stop. They shouldn't really do that. They got suckered into this by the Iranians. You know, the Houthis largely were smart and stayed out of all this throughout the conflict. But they now apparently have gotten themselves suckered into this, going after Saudi Arabia and their ships. I hope that will de-escalate because I think the Houthis, frankly, got snookered into this thing by the Iranians.
And a U.S.-based risk advisor focused on the attacks could prompt a military response by Saudi Arabia, an Iranian adversary that has relied on Red Sea routes in recent months to export millions of barrels of oil. Senior fellow at the Hudson Institute, Rebecca Heinrich, joins me now. Rebecca, there's really two parts to this, and Marco Rubio, he touched on the first part. You know, really, Iran is now having the Houthis do their dirty work by doing this. And the second part, if these attacks continue, how is this going to affect the price of oil globally?
Right. So the Houthis are an Iranian proxy group. So they're funded and they're paid for by the Iranians. And so part of the United States' objective in degrading the Iranian military so much and squeezing them economically is to make sure that they cannot fund and support all these other arms of their operations to destabilize the rest of the Middle East. And so far, as Secretary Rubio said, the Houthis have largely stayed out of this fight, which has been hugely helpful. And so for the Houthis to now be joining into this, they're clearly doing it at the direction of the Iranians. And they are an enemy of Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia in the past has been the one who's worked with the United States to take out the Houthis along the Red Sea to make sure the Red Sea stays open. So this is an escalation. Again, though, I would put the blame on the part of the Iranians.
Yeah, and I'll get to Saudi Arabia and...
Alright, so first I'd like to give all praises to Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakakwadash. I also want to say double honors to the apostles and elders of James Great Stone, and to you, Akim, that are out there pushing this truth in sincerity to Folek Shalom. This is Brother Kanan here with another lesson. Now, as you can hear, you know what I mean, the Houthis are basically acting on the threat that was made by the Iranians. They said that if US continue to strike, that they're going to basically take action in the El-Mandeb Strait, right? Which is another strait that basically provides the flow of ships, you know what I mean, that brings oil and other essential things throughout the world, you know what I mean? So they're basically planning to block both sides, all right? Which is going to cause a greater effect than what it would have done just using one strait only, the Strait of Hormuz, right? So they're escalating things, and these things must be done in order for the kingdom of heaven to actually come. Because what is this creating? This is going to create chaos. It's going to create high oil price, cost of living. It's already up there and people are crying, but this is going to, based on the advice given out there, you know what I mean? Well, it should, because it's more traffic being stopped, which means that it should go higher than what it went the last time the war started, or the beginning of the war. You know what I mean? So when this happen now, people gonna feel it more and more. You know what I mean? And that's where you're going to have, the longer the war continues, which America is really in a strait. They're in a difficult situation because they can't afford this type of escalation. But they can't just back down because they will lose world power. The world is going to see that they've lost dramatically. So their only aim is to fight. And to fight means that people are going to suffer. People are going to lose their life. They're going to be chaos, uproars, and all of that eventually. And that's where we're getting to. All right? So, and I realized she didn't even answer the question. The lady asked her how it's going to affect the cost of I think she said, Josh, how it's going to affect your cost. She's just giving us the history and going over the question, which is the important part. But let me get into the scriptures, because again, these are just prophecies. So this is 2nd Ezra chapter 16, and I'm going to start from verse 18. It says, the beginning of sorrows and great mourning, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils shall come? What are you going to do when these evil take its root into the earth? All your dreams, all your aspirations, all your planning, to become wealthy and become this great doctor, this great lawyer, whatever it is that you have dreamt for, to what effect will that be when there's total chaos worldwide and the money collapse? What will you do then? That's the question you should be asking yourself. And that's what a lot of people are not asking themselves. They are basically living at it's going to get better. And they tell themselves that every single day, even though the war keeps escalating, and they see that there's no off ramp, because the pride of America is not going to allow them to lose and accept loss just like that. They rather go down with a fight, because what? They have the biggest military, they are the most proud, they are the baddest thing in the world, and they are not going to accept. And other people, what they don't do is they don't realize that everything that is being done, whether it be on a marketing scale, in the sense of getting rich or it's about power, and it's about contrary powers trying to be on top. So when we're going to increase in AI because we have to defeat China in AI. We're going to increase in this because we have to defeat Russia and China. We can't allow them to get ahead of us. So it's a war. Everything is because it's coming to a war point. It's fight, economic warfare. You know what I mean? Everything that you're seeing, sanctions, all these things, it's all about war. And guess what? Just as though Russia is having a battle with Ukraine for much years now, and the world know that is NATO and America are been helping Ukraine to fight their wars, and they know that is against Russia. Just the same way they know that Russia and China is giving the Iranians them assistance in fighting them covertly. They're doing these things in secret to maybe the regular population, but they know. But they're not going toe-to-toe with each other like that, because they know that once they do that, once these great powers clash, bam, like that, it's outright war. But they're doing it secretively, which is proxy wars. You know what I mean? So these things are taking place, but what will you do when these things happen? When you have famine, when you have shortage of food, because we are going into a drought in the summer, it's very hot, little bit of rain, farming is getting hit by seeds and fertilization and all these things. We are going into a famine, and people are going to have high bills to pay. A lot of people, we're going to lose a lot of lives, right? So how are you going to preserve your life? What will you do in that time to preserve your life? The prophets of Yahweh Hashem Yahshai is saying, for the elect, for the nation of Israel, the chosen amongst you, we're preaching to the chosen, again, not everyone will hear this, that you're out, and your survival way out of this is through Yahweh wa Yahweh Shai. Yahweh Hashem Yahshai, the Heavenly Father and His Son's name, right? They are going to be your protector, your shield, and your guide in this time to come. And if you don't have them as your protector, you're going to go down one way or the other. There's no ifs nor buts nor maybe about it. All right? The one that the Lord chose to escape, He's the one that are the ones that will be saved. All right, let me continue. So let's jump to verse 19. It says, behold, famine and plague, tribulations and anguish are sent as scourges for amendments. These are what? For punishment. But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness. So people still going to be doing what? Wickedness continuously, even though they see that their end is becoming dark and gloomy, right? I should say gloomy, right? But for all these things, they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of the scourges. Behold, victuals shall be so good cheap upon earth, that they shall think themselves to be in good case. And even then shall evils grow upon the earth, sword, famine, and great confusions. Right? For many of them that dwell upon the earth shall perish of famine, and the other that escape the hunger shall the sword destroy. And the dead shall be cast out as dung, and there shall be no man to comfort them, and the earth shall be wasted, and the cities shall be cast down. There shall be no man left to till the earth, and to sow it. The trees shall give fruit, and who shall gather them? That's what we're heading into. We're heading into chaos. Slowly but surely, gradually rising. It's escalating, it's escalating, it's escalating, it's escalating. And there's no peace thought that is actually making sense, that is actually happening. Right? Because this is the Lord's war. The Lord is bringing them there in the Middle East to do what? To plead with them for the punishment of for what they did to the nation of Israel, for our people. And all the other wickedness that them do. Right? Let me read the last one. Right? So this is I'm trying to make it really quick. So this is 2 Esdras 15 and verse 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up against another, and swords in their hands. For there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. What's that talking about? Right? Civil unrest, race war, nations against nations. That's all that's going into. Right? Verse 17, a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able. Why? Martial law. Why? The cities are going to be blocked off with soldiers and police and all of those military might. You know what I mean? Checkpoints. Verse 18, for the cause of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, the houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. A man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword, and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread, and for great tribulation. And these things are going to lead into what? The famine that the Lord prophesies is going to come. A lot of people are going to die for hunger. And this is why we fear Yahweh Hashem Yahushai. And this is why we pray and beg for his mercy to escape what is to come. Alright, so with that, I want to say, Shalom.